there's a theme. There's a theme that this is we formed our foundation in 2013 with this charter requirement, which was a mission, and we've remarkably, it looks very scattered, but we've really stayed by this and learned a lot in the course of it. So we want to do scientific and technical research opportunities for students and introduce them to the scientific and technical communities. And why I say that, and I'll go over this again a couple of times, we're not trying to be a school. We're trying to sort of be the midwife to get students from where they are in a classroom to actually engaging in the scientific community. And it doesn't happen easily from a schoolroom setting. So let's see if I can get I'll navigate this. A lot of slides. I'm gonna go fast. Here's where we are right now. And you say, wait a second, I thought you did double stars. And no, it's not true. We do double stars only once a year. We do all these other things. And I'm going to tell you how we got there, how the opportunities got us there. And it's a very opportunistic approach. Here's where students are last year. You can see they're all over the world. We didn't start out that way at all. I'll explain that. How did we get there? Opportunities, introductions. Be opportunistic and to enable introductions. And they come about by the people who want to pass on their knowledge to the younger generation. This goes back to campfires and prehistoric man pointing to the stars and explain it to the kids. And I think that same genetic streak is in us today. And a lot of people want to do that as their avocation. And so that becomes a vehicle for us to have volunteers to be able to educate our young. And secondly, and this has evolved over time, actually during the period of time of that brief's been in operation, there's becoming an enormous number of scientific opportunities for actually funded programs in citizen science and education that didn't used to exist. And a lot of that's due to the evolution of technology and also a recognition that we can actually do good work. Some of you may have seen this slide before. We started out, Grady and I were teaching, I've retired, Grady's a pilot for Delta. And the grandson was at Army Navy Academy. And we said, well, we want to teach an astronomy class there. Let's do that. And we started our nonprofit. And I'll explain that well, I'll come back to that. We got invited to go to a research project on Kitt Peak with Russ Janae, who's really really connected with us in terms of what we thought we should do. Even though we were still teaching, we've only been teaching a couple of years, we did get a certification in California, one of the first for astronomy in high school.
Hey, Dad, I'm here to join you.
Oh, good. Good. Grady's coming in from Seattle, right?
Olympia, yeah.
Olympia, yeah, exactly. Great. I'm glad you made it. He's been on the road. Good. Then we acquired the observatory site. We were accepted. I'll get into it about the observatory site from SDAA on Pad 2 at that time. We had big plans. We then went in. I'll go into this more detail. We went in and started this astronomy research seminar, which is sort of a knockoff of what Russ had been doing for a few years. And we started in conjunction with him at the university, at the community college rather. That evolved into, it didn't work well, and we started off on our own. And so we sort of devoted ourselves to taking that course and bring it to San Diego and really engaging the community. From that quick slide overview, we also were saying, let's find out what's going on, let's get involved, and let's get people involved in San Diego involved with the astronomy community and vice versa. And so we had a nice afternoon conference at the AAS when it was in San Diego in 2016. We did many of you were at this, a number of people were at this. We had Dennis Conti of the AVSO present it was a 2-day maybe, conference on how to do exoplanets. This is back in 2016 when this was starting to look like there might be some role for the citizen scientists to play. We started a conference called RTSRE here in 2017. It's still going on, and that's very much in our crosshairs of what we do. And we also had a team go to Kate up in Madras, Oregon, working on the Kate on the exoplanet, I'm sorry, the Eclipse project, which was a lot of fun. What evolved was this complicated chart of trying to build a community within San Diego that connected schools, universities, SDAA, citizen scientists together to work together. They sort of work in a stovepipe way. They didn't really communicate that well. We tried, worked on that, continue to work on that. It's proven to be quite difficult. It shouldn't be as difficult as it's proven to be. Anyhow, getting into exactly mechanically how we got here, we started out, like I said, at ANA, and we brought in something to ANA, which we've been teaching a textbook. We said, we like to do experimentation, we like to do observation, and we think students would gain from a project-based learning instead of a textbook. Well, the opportunity at Kitt Peak with Russ Genet came along in 2014, and it was with speckle interferometry, which I could hardly spell at the time. And I didn't understand what it is, but it's basically a technique that uses Fourier transforms to convert the speckle twinkling of stars down to a discernible image. And you say, well, why do you care about that? Well, you can't separate close stars as you know, in a normal camera, 5 arc second separation is, nominally the limit. With the right equipment, the speckle interferometry, you can get down to a tenth of an arc second, which is like you can from space. So it eliminates the atmosphere. This is Kitt Peak. I worked in this one. Grady worked in a different one. I don't know which one. Grady, which one were you in? Do you know?
We were on the 2 meter, just running standard observations through a CCD.
Yeah. I was in this crazy solar telescope, which had been retired, and we're trying to figure out if we could use it. Couldn't find out a way to do it. It was fun though. So we did I skip something there? Oh yeah. Same time frame. Well, a year later rather. Somewhat the same group of people got involved with using the 100-inch at Mount Wilson, and that began a long history of things at Mount Wilson, and you'll see as it comes along here. But the goal was that Mount Wilson, 100-inch, beautiful telescope, world's largest at the time. A lot of the major discoveries there had been retired, and it actually didn't need to be retired because it's really one of the top astrometry sites in the world. And so the goal had been to, with the new instrumentation, new cameras we have, and to repair the facilities, that we could bring it back to science. And there's a stellar group that's become a little more formalized over time. This is what an image would look like after it's gone through speckle interferometry, and you can see the two close stars. As I mentioned, it did not work well bureaucratically with working as a outlier of Cuesta College. And we said, this is not working for us. Let's just start the thing on our own. And but there's an issue there. We can't give credit or anything like that. But we said, we'll work together. Russ and Grady and I worked together to start it here. And so we said, wait a second, we sort of learned from the interaction so far that we can't give credit or grades. But if we're trying to introduce students and we're trying to get them research opportunities, a course and a transcript is not going to get introduction in any way to a researcher or to a university researcher or to an opportunity. People don't hand out their transcripts. So let's go back to basics, and we find achievable opportunities for student research. And that it was small telescopes, and at that time it was binary stars or double stars that we could start using. We could start doing published results, because we wanted to have people to have, as Russ had beat into us. But in this case, it really was important because we're no longer offering credit or grade. They've got to have something that's produced and recognizable that they can show someone, whether it's a poster or a paper, and say, here's what I can do. And the other thing we realized that you really need to do is recognize is that research is done in teams, and students don't get team experience very often unless they've worked in sports, but certainly not academically. They don't get team experience. And that's proven to be an important factor and a real learning experience for students. We were short of equipment. We tried to tried to do observations from the coastal San Diego area, and that was ridiculous. Grady came up with a great way to use. We ended up using iTelescope to do our first remote observations. At the time, that was pretty unusual. People were not aware of what you could do online. There were some other attempts. SLU was, I never liked that one. That was not very good. Anyhow, so we evolved the course into a flow where students learn double stars. They present a proposal. That was new, but it got them that proposal experience. They would use iTelescope, process the data on their own machines, which turned out to be a mess because everybody has different setups, and then produce reduce the data and write a paper. And at that time, papers were published in paper, and that was that changed quickly after that. So what's the big deal about writing a paper? Well, you get recognition. You can put on your resume. You can't put your grade on a resume. Really, it doesn't work. And but the real thing is, it's a really important experience to know if you like science. And students, hate the idea of writing, most of them, and they get fear and loathing of it. But once they've done it, it's like the old brick road here. They all of a sudden, once they've been accepted, by golly, they all of a sudden realize that they have a role in this. They can do this, and that's a real ego builder. So the second part is, as you can see here, teams, and we've had people work in person. This is back at that time, working in person, presenting the results, or also working online. Now, here's in understanding a program plan. Why do you need a program plan? Well, you're trying to coordinate a bunch of people. And so there's a lot to be learned, practical things to be learned by doing this in a project-based way. You notice all of a sudden here, you look like a Zoom, and here we are talking about this is pre-COVID. To get around the IT issues, we've built we're not IT people, so we put in a server so everybody could work off this common server. So by 2017, we had a server, and we were now using iTelescope, and then we had a C11, which never really worked at Barrow, and we had a CDG20 that was going to be that we thought we were going to put out at Barrow, and we were using a running time on a 16 in SRO. Then came along that year, we had the conference, and all of a sudden we gained access to all of LCO's small 16-inch telescopes, which are around 6 locations around the world. That opened up a lot of things, and we're still party to that and still using it. Also, what came along, as I mentioned, the exoplanet, all of a sudden, instead of just double stars, there's exoplanets coming along. And I was pointing a little shout out for Bob here. SAS has been a real hotbed of all this stuff that we're talking about, and has been a real contributor to what we've learned and what's possible for students today. RTSRE is still going. This year's meeting is in Tasmania. I'm not going to make it. At any rate, in 2018, TESS was launched, and TESS opened up an opportunity in fact, formalize an opportunity for citizen science, because this is a typical TESS image, which only the TESS is a satellite-based system that's surveying around all parts of the sky, particularly focused on near opportunities, as opposed to Kepler that was focused at one spot for deep opportunities of identifying exoplanets. But it's a very coarse grain camera with large pixels, roughly 22 arcseconds square, 23 arcseconds square. So they needed a ground-based people to look at it and say, I get this big pixel here, and it looks like something's going on here. What's going on? Is it an exoplanet? And that's the subgroup 1, which we qualified for and became part of that, which was the first time being really part of a formal NASA team. And that there's a lot to that technically to be able to in order to make those observations. We had some student success. We were starting to make some headway. In fact, this student here, she's now working on her PhD at Cornell in exoplanet science. She was a double star student back then, and this is a part of one of the charts for one of the papers, the paper she and I published at SAS back in that time, in which we discovered a substantial error in the records of the U.S. Naval Observatory. Anyway, she got involved with tests there at MIT, got straight A's at MIT. Crazy, wonderful student. But we're still pretty much online and in person. And then the way saying we had to start changing our thought about, because we've been working double stars. Okay, now we've got this exoplanet thing, and we'd always wanted to do independent research in variable stars. So we had to reconfigure our thinking about how we would deliver our what we're trying to do. And then all of a sudden, Exoplanet Watch comes along, another exoplanet program, and it turned out that that's much more a reachable undertaking for initial students. And this was, I met Rob Zellum in 2019 at a Tucson conference, and he was bringing this idea out, and he was really not only promoting the idea of citizen science, he was promoting the idea of citizen science. That's the basis of the program. And so here's another opportunity that comes along. And it seemed to fit better with our student population for their initial experience. And what are they trying to do? They have nominally a simple task, you would say, and that's to really predict precisely when the transit's going to occur so that James Webb will be able to look at the target at the right time and not waste time looking at the wrong time. And in order to do that, you've got to really, the data at that time was pretty weak, and it can get weak. You have to continually update it. And that's an ongoing program now that's going on for, well, our students and us, we were involved in the initial development in the software and testing and so forth back in the 2020 timeframe to 2022, pretty much stabilized at that point. And we've been going more on a production basis since then. And so we developed a course, and here's 2022, a course for that exoplanet watch. That reconfigured thinking, and all of a sudden we said, okay, people have been doing double stars. Exoplanets is sort of a nice introduction to photometry. We had already teamed up with the AVSO, and we were providing students for the test program that were trained there for tests. And so we were already in that collaboration, but we were bringing in, we always wanted to bridge something between the basics, let's say, and tests, which is pretty advanced. That's where the exoplanet course came in, and then it launched into TESS SG1. But we wanted to build this course that was based on originally it was built on planet hunters and micro observatory, but then we moved the exoplanet watch into that. But the whole thing, they said, okay, wait a second, all these students want to do exoplanets, they don't want to do double stars. How do we do that? And we said, okay, let's strip out of double stars the introductory part that's sort of really basic astrophysics. Let's call that intro stars, and then they could start here and go either path. Okay, so we did that. Meanwhile, we upgraded our website considerably. Jerry Hilburn had done our original, and it was wonderful, but we wanted to upgrade it, and Jerry had sort of moved on. And we had to build in this IntroStars thing, and we built in an IntroStars course that was asymmetric. Take it anytime. That's the point of it. Take it tomorrow if you want. Take it next year, whatever you want to take it. And it's online and free, and there's 6 modules to it. And from that, if a student goes through that, which has become our prerequisite, they can then converse with us effectively in a classroom. They know the terms, they know the lingo to a certain extent, enough that we can all communicate. Otherwise, we were having students that were pretty conversant and others who never discussed astronomy before, all trying in the same room, not working well, sort of like the incompatibility of operating systems. So then this became a calendar, trying to make it into a formalized calendar so we could time when these things could be done, because we had limited resources. And so we have intro stars going all throughout the year. And then we do double star. Here we're doing double stars twice a year. Then our photometry exoplanet course twice a year. And they could migrate into these more advanced programs. Okay, well, that was where it was then. And all of a sudden, COVID came along, and thank goodness we'd been working with Zoom all along. So we had, it was not a great impact on us directly in the sense that we had to learn a whole new mechanism for delivery. But it did eliminate classroom work we did locally, which had implications for the ever since. Um, we did try online star parties just because we wanted to reach out to students, and they went okay, but it's not our long suit. And so we weren't doing science in this. And people like Gary Hawkins just did a fabulous job at it. And there's no reason for us to try to compete with that, so to speak. And so we went back to our knitting. Um, Grady had developed some wonderful, fabulous tutorials in this range of topics. And we were not able to use them effectively to get them made use of. It just seemed to be they were hidden and they were valuable. And so I decided we should try to make them available to the public. They should have the benefit of these. And there's almost 100 tutorials. It's just a fabulous job he's done. People continually remark about how good they are. And Grady, that's his expertise, I swear, so fabulous. Um, and so these basic ones we use in our courses, but they're really about maybe a quarter or a third of any one of we call them seminars or courses, but they're the basics and they're used throughout. And that way we don't have to repeat these things. And people, once they've seen it once or twice, they don't need to repeat it again themselves, but they're refreshers. But those are available on the website free, and they've been highly received. When we first put them out, we were the top hit on Google in astronomy for several weeks. Another opportunity comes along. Chandru Narayan, who I think is on here. Chandru discovered us through our AVSO connections, and he was a teacher, retired from aerospace, but a teacher at the Bush School in Seattle, with a real focus on astronomy and data science, and in particular in astronomy, spectroscopy, and even has them build their own spectrometers. Beautiful work. And this he got very enthusiastic about what we're doing, and so he's joined forces with us and has become a major contributor. So the first thing was Python, which was a nice fit because everything in science right now, our astroscience, is based on Python. I mean, if you don't know Python, you're really you got both hands tied behind your back. So by this point now, we're all of a sudden it's getting more complicated. This is 2024 now, and we have our online synchronous, asynchronous tutorials available for anybody to come. Hopefully that attracts them to say, oh, okay, I think I want to do interest stores. Oh, they do that and say, hey, that's interesting enough. I haven't paid anything yet, but now if you want to get involved and have some telescope time and so forth, join one of our courses, which double stars and exoplorers are the two primary ones. And now we've got this intro to Python, and which is very much focused on astronomy. So you build an HRD, or there's other creative things that Chandra has created. And then we've always sustained this idea that once you've gone through these courses, we make it available for students to go off on their independent research. And some do well. That's evolved slightly differently now. But notice down here, we're not trying to do star parties. We're hoping people do star parties say, hey, go, if you're interested in the science part of this, go over and try intro stars. Astrophotography, we're not into that either. I'm partially colorblind. That really doesn't help. Um, and so always looking for people that want to partner that way. And also looking for people who want to partner in programs that we don't do. There's lots of things we can't do or don't do. So we're always trying to collaborate with people. One of the things, thing that came up then, we had been on a thread with Mount Wilson since 2015, and it evolved in 2022, had a pretty successful course for students and several papers written from doing observations there. And then last year, really tried to formalize it into a real curriculum. And now it's one of the three courses recognized at Mount Wilson on their website. And This year, we expanded a bit to 2 nights, and there's 2 nights, one night doing speckle for the students to produce a research paper, and the second night for fun imaging and visual observations on the 60. 60 at one time was the largest telescope in the world, around 1900. Um, and it was succeeded then by the 100-inch. Hale was a very busy guy. Daytime, they do some of their research data reduction, get a tour of Chara, which is fascinating. The snow telescope, I think it was either the first or one of the first solar telescopes in the world. It looks like you're walking into a barn shed, a long shed, reminds me of my great grandfather's woodshed, and it's a horizontally configured solar telescope. Have a wonderful. The docent there does a fabulous job of explaining everything about it. Wonderful sunset at the on the 150. So watching the sunset using the 150, watching the sunspots these years is really these days is cool. And a 100-inch tour. Um, and now we're into 2025, and now Chandru has gotten us going on spectroscopy, and that course will start in August. And we finally gotten there. I'll show you the equipment in a moment. And oh, by the way, anybody can sign up for that. You go to our website, and you go to the seminars page, drop down, go to Intro to Spectroscopy at the bottom, click on the wait list, and you'll be in there and get communicated with. If you haven't done intro stars, our prerequisite, go ahead and get started now, and just don't have to race and rush yourself. Same's true with photometry. Grady's got a photometry course that's going to be more independent study, no classrooms. It's really independent on your own schedule. I don't know, Grady, you want to offer more about that?
Yeah, so touching back on the classes that you talked about, we had started off with classes of independent videos that were upwards of 45 minutes long and covered a lot of great topics, but they weren't functional in that time length. So we had broken them down into like 5, 6 minute videos and took a fair number of those and put them into the photometry class and have added other pieces in there as well. Things on how to use Ferranzo for reductions, what various types of photometry projects you can undertake. One of the ones I'm keen on doing is variable starlight curve analysis from Assassin. So we try to break those into independent modules and books that folks can then go into an area of photometry that they want to study and use those courses off the shelf to help them achieve a particular goal. So that's the structure of it now, but it's also our early test bed to really try to put a lot of this into do your research, watch the videos because they're pretty well done, and then we'll get together once a week, once every 2 weeks, and we'll have a general Q&A. It won't be a formalized class, but it'll be talking about where are you, what are you doing, what are you getting from these videos, how can we help support you. That's really the structure of what this intended to be, but we'll try to support students in a wide variety of photometric style of projects.
Good, thank you. Yeah, this is really what we always intended as our advanced stars, so to speak. And much more flexible for those that have. Here's the classic AVSO chart. That's one of the earlier ones, I guess, of the various variable star classifications. It's just, I don't know if anybody has a count on it, depends on how fine grained you want to be. Eclipsing binaries and so forth are probably one of the low hanging fruit, I would think, right, Grady?
Absolutely. Those yeah, they're the easiest and in fact the most rewarding for new students, especially when you look at something like a WUMA that can have a cycle and a half in a given night, especially during
Yeah.
the winter when your observation times are long. And to be able to see the impact of something that varies that frequent and produces quite a pronounced light curve is something rewarding for the initial student.
We've because I mentioned before, test is pretty sophisticated requirement for subgroup one. And Dennis Conti has he's the master of it. And we've sent students that way. One in particular in Poland has totally mastered it, has made all kinds of observations using our equipment and LCO, and even is on the LCO executive special project. He's going to teach our test course, and it's going to be will be in August and September. Be interesting. He's a fabulous young student, but this is our first time to turn a student loose on it. But I have total confidence in him. Dennis Connie says the best observer he's ever met with. And we continue our research at Mount Wilson. Okay. And that has currently, we're focused on the 100-inch on the in Mount Wilson. And there's two areas that where Gaia, I think Gaia is masterful. It covers everything. People thought, oh, you're never going to do any double stars again with for binaries because Gaia will answer the questions. Turns out it doesn't. A lot of stars that are in Gaia can't be the parameters can't be measured because we think, and most people think they are binary, but they can't. Gaia's resolution is insufficient. More importantly, I think, is the fact that if you look at the Gaia data, those stars that, even though they're recognized as double stars, that the separation is 1 arc second or less, you'll find that their stellar type and temperature and everything almost identical. Well, what's happening is, we believe, is that they're just that the flux from both stars is so close, it's intermingled, and they can't separate it for photometric purposes. And so there's a way to use speckle interferometry that's not been developed, but it's close to, we're coming close. Others haven't done it. To be able to use speckle interferometry and combine it and do photometry with it and be able to really resolve all those stars under 1 arc second as to what their stellar class is and so forth. There's a corollary to it that we're going to try to, they can't get the parallax on them either. And we think we may be able to get a rough parallax that way. There's a possibility that we can subgroup 3 observations that needs the high resolution that we can cut with Mount Wilson. And then there's an independent of Mount Wilson. There's Pandora, the new sort of a simplified test for a moment, think of it that way. And eclipsing binaries and globular clusters are also on the docket in our ongoing research. And the point of this is the students want to get on board with that advanced stars sort of thing, involved with a real research project. Here's places we can point them. Okay, how do you get the resources? Well, SDAA, we had this interesting experience of pad 2 had this roboscope on it, and it had been hit by lightning, and in 2013, I think it was, or 2013, SDA said, somebody take it over if you can have it, fix it. So we offered to fix it, and we got it, and this is what it looked like back then. It even had the satellite communication system on it for the TDS, and that we took it apart. I got it fixed and put it back together. We had a very sophisticated dome on it here, this blue one, and that we tried to make it work, and the latency through that satellite system made it impossible. And then it was just too creaky. It was already 10 years old when we got it. So we went to the robotics. As I mentioned before, I think we did, the eye telescope came out as a winner. And then we sat back and said, okay, in the end, we're going to have our own system there on pad 2. We went through a couple iterations, tried to think we could do a C11, didn't work. Long story on that. So we finally bit the bullet and said, we're going to have to go for the gold. And we went for plane wave, and we got a CDK-17. And we did the first of the L mounts. I think for some reason, I think it was number 11, but I don't know why I think that early on. But it turned out to be a fantastic mount. And we put an instrument selector on so we could have actually 4 different cameras on it, so we could do different things, and with one scope. And these are the 3 that we started out with. and this one was for photometry. This was for more or less a wide field. The QSI was for wide field astrophotography as much as anything. And this ASI 1600 with the Barlow was for the spectral interferometry, all through one scope. And this is what it looked like. It's on pad 2 over here at the left end of the image of Tierra del Sol. This is what it looks like when the roll-off's in place. That's the roof there. That's the observatory. We built that by hand with a couple of good old boys in the neighborhood. And so at that point in time, we had LCO, and we had, this is Barrow in its final stages of construction, and we had a half meter, which we had hoped to put on Barrow, but no. So Grady and I drove it down to a place in Texas, partnering with the University of North Texas with this half meter that we had acquired to install it there. Well, in the long run, it didn't work out. It was a more or less a prototype half meter, and the optics weren't good. So then we're back to, this is an LCO scope, and this is ours. LCOs are modified, need 16 inch. Then lo and behold, John Downing donated a CDK 17 for us. And it's sitting at Sierra Remote Observatories up in north of, between Kings Canyon and Yosemite. It's a beautiful operation facility. The roof's off here. There are multiple buildings. They have their own technicians there, so you can sort of run it remotely without any personal involvement, so to speak. Much easier than operating our own out there at TDS. That now is configured with ACP, as is Barrow, and runs every night on photometry. It just cranks through a whole wide variety of things, from exoplanets to eclipsing binaries to you name it. Then, lo and behold, we now have spectroscopy at Barrow. Here's Grady on the first light night here, with the roof off on our CDK 17. It has a Tom Fields grating in it. And here's what the image can look like. This is literally on one of the first images I took with my phone. And we're just trying to get the exposure set right here. And now Chandru is operating it and collecting images for the course in August. And it seems to be working well. Then Larry Sarah here, good friend for many years, and I've been talking for a long time about doing radio astronomy. And lo and behold, last winter he came across from UCSD a little dish, 1 meter dish, that they were surplusing. And he took it out and got a bunch of friends together, and they built this. They built the rest of it. It's not just shown here, but this is the dish, obviously upside down. And here's Grady holding it up out at Barrow. Now, Barrow is right here. That's pad 2. This is pad 1. And board just approved us to install that there. And it will be connected to our pad through a 12 volt and a USB line, so that this can be communicated through our Starlink, and the data can be captured and the computer in our system to record it and post it up through the internet to over the Starlink, and make it available to our students, but also make it available to SDAA members. Now it's a fixed, starting out just as a fixed scope on at a 21 centimeter line, but you can do quite a bit with that of interest for introductory things. Actually, there are some FRBs are showing up there as well. So there may be some more interesting things than just basic introductory radio astronomy. Okay, so where are we here? What we learned was we had started out being San Diego focused, and as soon as we went to internet focused to change the world. But what we did learn was that there are people, lots of them, who want to be instructors, who want to help students learn and get the experience in science. And oh, by golly, there's a lot of students that want to do that too. And there's limitations in the classroom. We end up getting self-selected to some really good students because they that are very interested in this, in learning astronomy and science, and this gives them an avenue that they don't get in the classroom. And so there's a natural affinity here that's proven to be very powerful. It's self-sustaining. And I should say, here's the opportunity branch, because each person here brings along a special opportunity for us. I've mentioned Chandru. Heinz, I don't know if he's here or not, great data analyst, and he's an IT guy. He's helped us out tremendously there. Mark Harris is very much embedded with spectral interferometry. Stephen Manson is professor of physics and astronomy at the College of the American College in India, and we've had a number of Indian students now, and he's sort of going to take them more under. They've been his students, or some have not. He's going to take that more and be more of their overall mentor. Joseph Birch, who's not officially a scientist or engineer, is a fabulous practical engineer, and he's been very helpful in terms of like the Mount Wilson operations and so forth. I could go on, and I will. Publications we have listed on our website. There's nearly 100 now of students that have published. Here we are back at our timelines. That's how we got here, and been through a lot of partners, people that we work with. We're always welcoming partners of all kinds. These are a bunch of local San Diego community college professors that did the course themselves a number of years back. Very close with San Diego State. We've been working with them on an NSF project for the third year now, run on key volunteers. And I guess I'm running out of time, but I really would like to, I've mentioned a few here. I guess I've mentioned quite a few. Scott, I've not mentioned, who's on the line here. And Scott's been with us from almost from day one and brought us along on tests. And he operates our telescopes, and he's been a tremendous help throughout. Grady is, among all the things he's done, he's taken over, he manages both observatories. I mentioned Chandru, who's now picked up these courses. Mark Harris, who's in Atlanta, has really gotten quite accomplished in spectral interferometry. Marie is a student who graduated, well, one of our students who's now graduated with a bachelor's in astronomy from the University of Colorado. And Richard Jaworski, who's in Australia, are going to try to team up and run double stars for me this fall. Christoph is the great student in Poland. Grady, we don't have a person for radio astronomy, and that's something we're going to be searching for, because we're looking to bring that course out next year. And we've certainly got a lot to do to figure out how to do that. But these are, you can see how opportunities arise, and you give people the opportunity, you give people the resources to carry it out. And that's what we're trying to do. Is if somebody has a commitment to an area that they really want to do, they want to do this, and they want to sort of follow our philosophy of producing a product. Students end up with a product they can brag about. We've probably got a marriage. And then we've got some, I mentioned Joseph Birch. Andy Kovic's been tremendous help. She's really become a great operator. She's up at Mount Wilson right now, operating the 100-inch. Alexander Belcher Sweeney has been with us for years, and the double with him is he's a Mount Wilson docent. And so he manages all our affairs at Mount Wilson. And we're not just a bunch of local folks here. We have an advisory board, two local professors, Mike Jason with San Diego Astronomy Association, Stella Kafka, who was the CEO of AAVSO. I guess I missed a slide there. Sometime back, I think in 2020, we started there's a webinar series that's done by AAVSO. We've been the sponsor of that since then. I think the last 2 years, we're the sole sponsor of it, with a monthly meeting or a Zoom webinar by usually an astronomer in a unique field of inquiry. And hopefully we'll continue doing that. over time, we've collected a series of folks who like to mentor students. They're not quite ready to become professors or instructors, but they want to help. And boy, that's a tremendous help because they can have the one-on-one with the students. We'll provide the content, the classwork, and they can work with the student to make them successful. So where do we sit? What I'd love to see is that we've sort of lost track of San Diego during all of this, and I'd like to recenter ourselves a bit and get more SDAA involvement, SDA members and children. I mean, I don't know if we have any SDA children right now. Yet we're worldwide, recognized worldwide, and we're not recognized here anymore. Love to be introduced to astronomy clubs and students. That's a powerful tool because we're not talking about classroom things. We're not a classroom. We want to work with students who want to do something extra. And San Diego schools, we tried for years to try to get in some way into a program, but unfortunately the schools are so restrictive about what they can do and how they can introduce something that it just became way too much energy for no benefit to try to accomplish something. However, there may be somebody in the audience here that knows the way to do that, which would be great. We'd love to do it, but we've not been able to do it. Loved the opportunities come from mentors. They bring in fields of study. You think of several that we are not involved in that would be interesting, and some maybe going to be instructors. And broadly, I think we have opportunities to collaborate. I think some of the things that SDA may want to do and some things we want to do mesh together. We just need to communicate more. So that's my message.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Grady. Everybody else involved with Boyce-Astro. That was awesome. Do people have questions? Our members and attendees today for Pat or Grady or anyone else in the audience? You can open it up for questions for them.
Pat, I was going to ask, maybe would Chandru or Scott be interested in any comments? You may have other people besides yourself and Grady. They're part of Boyce.
Yeah.
Sure. This is Chandru. Thank you, Pat. And thank you, everybody at the SDAA. It's very nice to be part of this community. I just wanted to say my focus has always been how to connect astronomy with the larger educational goals for high school students. And the idea being that we teach them advanced mathematics and physics under the pretext of astronomy. So that astronomy is the sweetener, and then we teach them about exponential functions. We teach them about Jupyter notebooks and how to use GitHub and how to be a research scientist. We teach them LaTeX and so Python, of course. So the idea being that you make these subjects interesting for students rather than it feeling like they're back at high school. So that's what I'd like to bring to Boyce-Astro. And thank you, Pat, and thank you, Grady, for everything that you're doing for the high school community all over the world. I'm so proud to be part of this organization.
Let's see. This is Scott Dixon. And of course, I've been a SDAA member for a long time, although in the last couple of years, I've been less active because a lot of my attention has been towards Pat and his program. And of course, I started out in astronomy, well, in this century, at least, barely. Taking a lot of pretty pictures, and pretty pictures is fun and it's a challenge, and you learn some things about the equipment and how to do it, and all the software options, and then I really wanted to understand the science of astronomy better, and had an opportunity to help Pat on a couple of projects, and helped him in some areas where I perhaps knew something about what I was doing. and solved a problem or two, but in the process learned an awful lot. I mean, about science and how the science of astronomy works, and the education process that Pat is providing for people who want to become astronomers. That was an entirely new thing for me. I had never thought about that, but it's quite remarkable, and it's the major contribution that Reef and Pat and Grady and everybody has. I think they're really you're really doing a wonderful thing for young people who are self-motivated and want to become astronomers, and you're enabling that, and it's really I think a very impressive and valuable thing.
Yeah, let me add a couple of things there. And I thought I had a slide, but I may have slid by it doing it in PDFs. It's interesting. Our student population was, 10 years ago was roughly 50-50, community college and high school. And it stayed pretty much that way. And all of a sudden adults started creeping into it. And now high school has just almost disappeared on us. It's all college, grad school, and adults, which is sort of frustrating. I mean, it's not all, but but it's extreme how much has changed. We are down to less than 20% high school, and we have, well, in the last course, the exoplanet course right now, majority are over 40. And then the rest are there's one high school student, and the rest are college students. So it's frustrating. Part of it's because it's hard to reach high school students. You get a word of mouth, but it's really hard to reach them. And now John Drew has had these students in class in high school. We haven't been able to make that connection to many people in San Diego that are as dedicated as Sean Drew is to bring science to students beyond their classroom work. And so finding people like that I put as a real high priority. And I would love to find some in San Diego. I've been trying hard and as hard as I can, and I'm not making much headway. Poor high school students, teachers have way too much on their table to deal with. It's way too much. And so you have to deliver something that's turnkey for them. They will not be able to pull it off. If nothing else, their administration will stand in the way, unfortunately.
So Pat, it's interesting to me about what time in history did that begin to change, where your profiles, student profile was moving up in age?
I think there's two factors that I can think of. One is that our presence at the AVSO drew in adults from around the world. And the other was I always misstate this, next generation science standards put handcuffs on the high schools. And it took it from, maybe an aggressive teacher might be able to introduce some new material into a classroom in a year. And now it's overwhelming work. And so that diminished any classroom possibilities, which I was able to do back in 10 years ago. We were able to have some really good classroom experiences. And that didn't help. And of course, having to go totally online eliminated a lot of the high school opportunities as well.
Yeah, as far as the outreach program goes, where I've had many years experience, before and after stats regarding the COVID time period, that whole COVID time period really restricted our access to any of the public schools.
Yeah.
And, for approximately almost 2 years, we had no access whatsoever to public schools.
Right.
Whereas prior to that, probably 2/3 of our contacts
Yeah.
in the outreach program for at least a decade before was students in those schools. The interesting thing is I've had a chance to judge at the San Diego Engineering and Science Fair.
Yeah.
And the students that I've seen, junior and senior students in high school, are
Mhm.
absolutely scary. They
Oh,
are
yeah.
so frigging scary smart. I cannot believe the things that they're doing with very little resources, often with just moderate parental support and moderate academic support, and they're coming up with incredible research projects. And have you had that chance to judge the fair or to interact
Yes,
with
I
the
have.
students?
Yeah.
You know, and you've seen them, so we know that in those high schools they're still there. Those kids are hungry for, you know, the right kind of direction and so forth.
Yeah.
So we should get together and think about how we can address that group, because that is an incredible young group of people that are going to surpass anything we're doing today. And they'll
Yep.
probably do it in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. I identified one who was an eighth grader back when I was doing the judging, and I said, we got to get together. And he did several things with us. He was amazing. He won the Astronomical Union's Young Astronomer of the Year by the time he was a sophomore, and he got accepted into Planck Institute for summer program in Germany that summer, and just just a phenomenal student. We just had one who's still in high school who was published last fall in the Astrophysical Journal. For I mean, where do you come across these people? It's phenomenal, and that's we're fortunate we have self-selected students. I know Grady and I used to get frustrated when we were teaching students that are in a required course at ANA, which they're trying to check off their science requirement. And there was one good student there that really, really loved it, Faisal. Well, Faisal ended up now, he runs, of all things, um, it's a genetics lab at Harvard. He got his PhD in genetics, but he was a fabulous student, and he did 3 papers in the course of, I don't know, a year or two, and that really got him going on the science path. He wasn't sure what he was going to do. And so, yeah, it's exactly that. We have to find a way to reach it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Pat. I mean, my student just last month, 2 students, one from Redmond High and another one from Bush School, they participated in the Washington Science and Engineering Fair, like you were talking about,
Right.
and they placed #1.
Yes.
And they published a paper on spectral interferometry through Boyce-Astro.
Yeah.
And not only did they do that, but both of them were offered scholarships to go to college.
Right.
$80,000 scholarships each for 4 years. I mean, the opportunities are there, and we just need to advertise them with the parents. Going through the
Right.
school makes it very difficult. There's a lot of obstacles going through the school, but I primarily work just with parents, and the parents are engaged, and they know that students can gain not only this extra knowledge but have other opportunities. And I really think you can build that community through parents.
No, I agree completely. The best example I have of that is that student I showed you named Skylar, who was there at the Kavli Institute, and she's doing her PhD. Well, it was one of the schools which was more open. It's a loose school, it's not as formalized in this structure as most high schools in San Diego. They convinced them that we could have a presentation to students and parents to say, here's what you could do. Well, she showed up there. She was either a freshman or sophomore at the time, and her mother pulled me aside and said, you got to talk to her. She's wanted to be an astrophysicist since she was 5 years old. And that's how, and she and I worked together. In fact, she's going to do a presentation for us in 2 weeks or 3 in June on weird exoplanets. That I'm going to get an invitation out as soon as we settle it down here. And it's gone from that experience. If you catch the right ones, and the parents are the ones that make the difference, because she made a point of bringing Skylar to my attention. I should mention that one that was a high school that went to the Planck Institute. In between, he won the California physics and astronomy competition for the state. Some of these people are just phenomenal. You have to be able to reach them.
Well, thank you, Pat. It's been a great, great introduction to Boyce-Astro for those that don't know anything about it. I really appreciate it. Other questions in the room?
No, there's a comment in the room. Pat, there's several of us were judges at the fair this year. And out of the 5 people we interviewed, 2 of them specifically mentioned that they were working with Boyce-Astro. And afterwards, I thought I wished I had asked the others, but I didn't. I wasn't that smart. But they are brilliant. They are absolutely brilliant.
Yes, they are. It gives you a whole different picture of the younger generation.
Yeah, so you're getting to more people than I think you realize.
Okay, maybe so. I hope so. Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity. This was it was fun to do. And
hey, Pat, this is Chris
Yeah.
Rowe.
Yeah.
Hey, I know you're talking about the high school outreach, but don't bemoan all of us adult learners who are so thrilled to be a part of your organization. You know, it as one who's fairly, you know, who's obviously new to the club. You know, this is a exciting opportunity, and I know obviously I'm not, you know, alone in thinking that and saying that. It's, you know, to have this level of technical knowledge and expertise and be able to have it taught to us, not just, you know, a whole bunch of YouTube videos and you know, dabbling here and there, but to have the structure is really a gift. And there's, you know, like I said, for a lot of us. So I said my piece. I'll shut up.
well, thank you, Christopher. That's evolved. As we were talking before, it's a bimodal distribution. We have those under 25 and those over 50. And the over 50 are great students, and they're a great influence on the under 25s. And a lot of them want to become instructors or mentors, which is exactly what we want to do.
Yeah.
No, you know, I have an example of thinking back to the campfire 3,000 years ago when the elders were pointing up at the stars and saying, here's what this is and when it comes around and so forth. Well, we've refined from that, but that's what we're doing again. We're the elders trying to pass it on to the youngers.
Well, and you and I have talked a little bit about that. You know, I'm in the Solar System Ambassador program, and I enjoy doing the outreach and mentoring people, and it's something I look forward to being able to do. I get very excited about that. So I have teaching, you know, some teaching experience, and it's very natural for me. So excellent. I look forward to working with you.
I hope so. We need all the help we can get. Maybe one day we'll get Bob Buckheim to talk to us about things.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a chapter of Boyce-Astro out here on the East Coast in North Carolina. So
okay, sounds good. Well, Bob's written the books on how to do this. He's the expert on citizen science.
Pat, this was really good. It's been a long time since I got an overview of where Boyce-Astro is, and your growth and diversification is fabulous. That's really well done.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the SAS coming up in a month.
Yeah, everybody. Ontario, California, June 19, 20, and 21. Ontario Society for Astronomical Sciences Symposium. Be there or be square.
It's a great community of folks. They've been working together on things for, I don't know how long now, Bob. SAS 20 years, 25?
SAS goes back 40 odd years.
40. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. A little secret about Bob. He was my mentor when I got into AAVSO doing spectroscopy.
Oh.
Yeah, he'll deny that, but he was very helpful.
Yeah. You chose well. And by the way, he has a couple books out. If you haven't look for them, they're good.
Okay, there's where you ought to be.
Okay.
Registration link. Enjoy it.
Okay.
Excellent. Thanks, Bob. Any other questions or comments from the group here? Jump right in, speak right up. All right, B, do you have anything further?
Well, if you want to pull up the last slide, Dave, all we have to show it's okay if not. I'll just say that we've got a great speaker for August. Pi Finder will be the topic. We're still looking for speakers for next month and July. I think it's the next slide, Dave. And we can end with that. Just that these are the speakers we've got on deck. We're still looking for one for June, so feel free to send your ideas to the board. And thanks very much again, Pat, Grady, everyone else. It was awesome. Great presentation.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you all.
Great meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm ready to wrap it up, but any last comments anywhere?
Real quick, what was that link again for Society Astro?
Oh, SAS. Yeah.
Society for Astronomical Sciences. There we go. All right.
Okay.
Okay, folks, thanks a million, Pat, Grady, and
Thanks.
all. You know, I walk around your site up there on pad 2 a lot. In fact, I was up there looking out pad 1 just about a week ago. I wanted to see how you're going to set the radio telescope up. So, you know, we appreciate all that you're doing up there and for what you're doing for these students. Anyone out there who's even slightly interested in moving forward with some science, astronomical sciences, this is one great way to get started and to move quickly into whatever direction you like. And I think this whole project for radio astronomy, Pat, is got some great things that can happen. We've had a couple of false starts out at our site, but I think that this is the best start we've seen in many years. So I'm looking forward to working with that. And at some point, I may even donate my bigger equipment from my home here, doing the 21 centimeter, drift scan project.
Okay.
We do that. So that's kind of fun. All right. Well, anything more? There's nothing more. I think we've had a fantastic meeting. Thanks everybody for joining and presenting. And I guess we will see you next month.
Thank you.